Hello and welcome to the DEBUG04-01 tutorial. One thing I want to say real quick off the top is I'm sorry that the tutorials don't always flow the best. They're not all recorded in the same semester, so sometimes the recording types and how I do some things will vary a little bit. But hopefully it's all somewhat in sequence and makes some sense here. So I'm going to go ahead and actually extend this up so that we get more screen space here. I'm just going to step through this as quickly as I can. Hopefully this will help you with the assignment that you have for this week, and help you understand debugging a little bit better. So to get started here, we can read through the instructions here. Basically we're going to put in the ID number of the salesperson and the name of the salesperson, and then the number of bedrooms for the apartment that they rented, and we're going to calculate their commission based on that. And we're going to quit, obviously, if we're done doing that. So we have some declarations here. If we haven't talked about it before, I want to point out that there's rarely anything wrong in the declarations, at least not that you can tell just by looking at the declarations. The only kind of thing that you would know from that is if it said string here instead of num, and this is actually a number. Things like that would be an obvious thing, but generally speaking, it's a matter of consistency later on, so sometimes you might have to change something up here or down in the code to make it consistent between the two. So you can kind of understand what's going on here. We got our working variables: salesperson ID, salesperson name, num bedrooms. Those are the ones we're going to use every iteration of the program, and then we have some constants here that are the commission values that we got from up top here for the various apartment sizes. And then we've also declared another variable here for quitting the program. So if we actually start the logic, modularization is happening right off the bat here. We've already touched on this, I believe, but if you understand that the mainline logic is everything between start and stop. So that's the actual execution of the program. It starts up here, goes through the declarations. This is the first line of executable code. But when we call this module, we send the logic down to here, and we execute the statements inside of that module, and then we return and we go to the very next line. So that's how that works. That needs to be very clearly understood. And they have some really good examples in the book of just following that logic. For instance, pages 53 and 54 in the book demonstrate the same code, but one is modularized, one is not, and they show the flowchart and the pseudocode so you can follow what's happening. So I would recommend referring to that until you clearly understand what's going on. So anyway, we call the getReady module, which means we execute these statements. Again, pretending we're the computer, we output this to the user. We say enter salesperson ID, and then we're concatenating these things together, this string and this string, with the contents of this variable, which is 9999. So the user sees enter salesperson ID or 9999 to quit. So they're going to do that, right? And they're going to type something on the keyboard, and we're going to want to receive that as input. However, we have another output statement here. And you could argue, well, okay, you say I want input, but how do I know that? How do I know this is wrong? Well, let's look at it from the other side. If we try to output salesperson ID, what is salesperson ID currently equivalent to? Well, it's garbage. It's nothing. We haven't assigned any value to it. So if I try to output that, I'm not going to output anything really. And it, depending on the syntax of the language, I suppose it could even crash the program. So that's one way you know it's wrong. There's nothing there. If we follow, again, we retrace our steps back through the program, we see that, well, this is the only other place it's been referred to, and it's not, wasn't assigned a value. So we actually want to assign a value to it, receive that as input, and go forward. So now salesperson ID is equal to whatever the user typed. So if they typed 9999, then that's what it is. So let's pretend they did type 9999. Let's say they want to quit. I always try to start with that because it's the easiest logical path to follow. So while the next statement here says while salesperson ID, which is that value, that variable we're just talking about, is not equal to quit, or 9999, we proceed. So let's evaluate this again. Is 9999 not equal to 9999? Well, no, it is equal to, so that would be false. And that's your escape for a while loop, is to have the loop control question evaluate false. So yes, it's false. We go down to after the end while and we execute the finish. So let's actually go down real quick and look at finish. Finish just is one line of code actually, output end of report, and then return, and we stop. So it looks like that works. It looks like that that the logic there is correct. If we put in 9999, we do quit. So what happens if we put in something else? Let's say the salesperson ID is 1234. So I put in 1234. Is 1234 not equal to 9999? True, it's not. So we execute the body of the loop. So remember, this is the whole loop, this is the body of it. There could be a bunch of lines in here, but there just happens to be one, which in fact happens to be a call to the module. Another way to think about this, again, if you're still struggling with modularization, is all of this could effectively be right here, and paste it in there. Kind of got the alignment wrong here, but all of this then would be the body of the loop, right? And it would be just inside the loop when we do our end while. Instead of putting it all there, we're keeping our mainline logic, the code in the mainline logic, we're keeping it short and just having one call to this detail loop module, and then we go down here to find all our code. So hopefully that makes sense. So let's look at the detail loop. Output enter name. We are telling the user then to enter their name. They enter salesperson name. Every time we look at a variable, and I should have pointed this out earlier, we should always do a variable check and make sure that first of all that the variable exists, and second of all that it's spelled the same way and all, consistent among the uses of it. So we do see the salesperson name does exist right up here, and so that should be good. So then we output enter number of bedrooms rented, and we receive that input into num bedrooms. Sure enough, there's a number variable there for that, so it looks like we're good on that. So then we want to compare num bedrooms and determine what the commission would be based on the number of bedrooms, because that's what our variables were up here. Commission for a 3-bedroom apartment was 100, and 75 for a 2, and so on. So first question is if num bedrooms is greater than 3, then commission earned equals the commission for 3 bedrooms. Well, greater than 3, I thought it was if you rented a 3-bedroom apartment, not greater than a 3-bedroom apartment. So the comparison should be equals, right? If num bedrooms equals 3, if it is a 3-bedroom apartment, then they get the commission for 3. Now you might argue, well, what if they rent a 4-bedroom apartment? Well, it doesn't say that that's to be allowed for in the program, and that's a real problem that occurs in programming. Is people, when they have to make a decision with certain information and are presented with a new instance, we can make that judgment call. We can say, well, okay, this is what they were supposed to do for 3. This is these are the rules. We have this situation that doesn't perfectly match the rules. I'm gonna make a decision on the fly on how to do this. Computers can't do that. That's a weakness of programming, in a sense, is that it doesn't know what to do other than exactly what it's told, which is a reason that as a PC tech, when I had experience doing that, and some of this may sound familiar to you all, either in your own experience or your own use of computers or helping others, it's not the computer's fault. The computer did exactly what you told it to. If you think it didn't do what you wanted it to do, that's your problem. It's not the computer's fault. It really only does what it's told. Now, the programmer may have programmed it to do something in response to what you did that you didn't think makes sense, but it's still only doing what it's been programmed to do, and it will consistently do that every time. So when you have an exception, let's say, what if they did put in 4 for the number of bedrooms? Well, we'll actually see what happens here if we get down here to the bottom. There could be an argument that you should do greater than or equal to, but I would argue that it is handled a little bit differently. I'm up to 10 minutes. I try to keep the video short. I'm going to go ahead and chop this up into 2 parts, and we'll continue this in the next video.